JT, and it's time for what I do every year, my Super Bowl preview show. The little backstory on this. Years ago, I worked with a gentleman, he shall remain nameless, who kept changing his Super Bowl pick when the playoffs started. And I said, no, you can't do that. You have to start before the season begins with your Super Bowl pick, because then anybody can change their pick. Quarterback can get knocked out for the year, week 6, and you say, well, I want to change my pick. No, you got to stick with your pick. So I've done this every year. I've gotten it right 3 times in the last 9 years, which is harder than you think. I got the Russell Wilson Super Bowl that he won. I got the Peyton Manning Denver Super Bowl, and I did get a Patriots Super Bowl with Brady. I only picked one of those. But it's hard to do. The last 2 years, I picked the Buffalo Bills to win the Super Bowl, and I was wrong. So I put my name on it. Again, this is just my opinion of who's going to make the playoffs. A disclaimer, working for the Raiders, I don't pick Raiders wins and losses. Part of my deal. You can understand that if you understand gambling or any other perspective there. So let's get that off the table there. Here's what I got. I'm going to start in the NFC, where last year Philadelphia went to the Super Bowl, and they were a dominant team. Jalen Hurts jumped in. He played at the highest level, and I was right on him. I nailed him. He was great in Oklahoma. Unbelievable. I love the character of him, everything about him. But, he fumbled in the Super Bowl without getting hit. He fumbled in the Super Bowl without getting hit, and that lost the game. So he's got to have a chip on his shoulder here. Last year, Philadelphia went 14-3. I said because of their November schedule alone, go Google it, they will not win the NFC. That is shocking news for many. I have Philly going from 14-3 to 11-6. Philadelphia will win the wild card. In that division, the Dallas Cowboys. I was just in Dallas. I watched them in the preseason. I think Dallas is loaded. I think it's one of the best rosters they've had since their Troy Aikman years. Now, the problem is Dak. And eventually, I think Dak is not going to be the reason they lose. Mike McCarthy will call the plays. I think that'll settle Dak down. Dak's got to go down and lower his interception ratio. I think he'll do that. They said goodbye to Zeke, but Pollard gets rewarded on the franchise tag. I love Dallas's defense. And look, Philadelphia's offensive line and Dallas's offensive line, if you combined them, every player would go to the Pro Bowl and be an All-Pro, and the backups would be Pro Bowlers. So Philly and Dallas have almost equal offensive lines. I just like Dallas's defense with the stability. Philly's lost a couple of players. I got the Dallas Cowboys winning the NFC East. They went 12-5 last year. I have the Cowboys 13-4. The Dallas Cowboys home playoff game, Dallas wins the NFC East. We go to the North, where Minnesota went 13-4, and they lost to the Giants in their first game. Kirk Cousins played unbelievable all year. Remember, with the gold chain and flexing, he had a lot of fun. And he's a nice guy. If you saw quarterbacks, really nice guy. When he loses games, he reads baby books to his kids. I'd be in the bar. I'd be pounding Modelo's if I lost a playoff game. He goes in and takes his kids and gives them a bath and reads baby books. Is you going to win a championship with him? I like Minnesota. They got a good roster. I think they take a step back. They won 13. I got Minnesota going 11-6. They still win the division, and that brings me to Detroit. I think Detroit and Dan Campbell, no one can name anybody on Detroit. Jared Goff and who? Anybody know any other players there? Then why do you love Detroit so much? You love Dan Campbell because he's all muscled out. Look at these right here. He's all muscled out, and he's walking into a room, and he gravitates. They got good players. Hutchinson off the edge is a good player, but they don't have the roster of Dallas, Philly, and the 49ers. But I'm giving Detroit the benefit of the doubt. Detroit, double-digit wins. Detroit, the wild card at 10-7. New Orleans, Derek Carr takes over a 7-10 team. Perfect scenario in a bad division. I have New Orleans winning the division 10-7. They get a home playoff game. Don't know what they're going to do in the playoffs, but I have New Orleans, the only team in that division. Brings me out west when we got news where the 49ers decided to give Nick Bosa $122.5 million because they don't have to pay Mr. Irrelevant and Brock Purdy. San Francisco went 13-4 last year. I just have them losing one more game. 49ers 12-5, arguably a great roster, maybe the best in football. Seattle 9-8. Now this is the tough thing. Who's the last wild card for me? How about the Giants? I like the Giants. I like Seattle a little bit better because of their draft last year. I'd like to see the Giants go after that third team in the East, but I'm going to go show respect. I didn't last year for Geno. I have Seattle at 10-7. Those are the playoff teams. Dallas, Philly, Minnesota, Detroit, New Orleans, San Francisco, and Seattle. Let's go to the AFC, where the AFC is absolutely loaded. Loaded, and again, disclaimer, can't pick the Raiders as an employee, but I'll tell you, I like the Raiders this year. Better than the season win total. They're better than they were last year. It's important. I start with who I think is going to the playoffs. Buffalo last year was my Super Bowl pick at 13-3. I still think they're loaded. I still think they have everything they need. I don't like the Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs. I think there is something there. Wink, wink, there is something there. I have Buffalo winning the East at 12-4. That brings me to Miami and the Jets. Ooh. Okay. I'm going to buy into Aaron Rodgers. The Jets were 7-10. Play like a Jet. I have the Jets going 10-7. Miami 9-8 from last year with Tua. I cannot back Tua. I just don't have enough confidence. I'm not predicting an injury. I would never do that. I love the playmakers in Miami. I love their secondary. I think they're going to get beat up in the division. I think it's going to come down to the last game of the year. I give the Jets the wild card at 10-7. Last year, Cincinnati went 12-4. This year, Joe Burrow didn't play again in the preseason. He got banged up. 12-4, I think, will be good enough to come back this year, be one less game. I got them 11-5. That's respect to Cincinnati, who I think is a beatable team. Cincinnati, very well coached, good team. They can play in all different types of weather. In that division, I'm going to take Baltimore, who went 10-7 last year. I'm going to give them 10-7 again. Okay, Lamar Jackson could win 11 or 12. A lot of people are picking Baltimore to be a Super Bowl team. I'm not, but I'm going to put them in the playoffs as a wild card team. That brings me to the South, where Jacksonville is an unbelievable team. They have arrived with Doug Peterson, Trevor Lawrence. They got 6 wide at wide receiver. They can run the ball. Jacksonville went 9-8 on the campaign last year, went in and won a playoff game. I'll take the Jags up a game to have 10-7. The Jaguars win the South. And that takes me to the AFC West. Kansas City went 14-3. I don't think they're going to be that good. I got them at 12-5. That's respect. That's respect for a team that has dominated this sport. And I don't want to see Kansas City win. I actively root against them. But I got Kansas City dropping 2 games. Kansas City wins the West at 12-5. And again, the Chargers, I think the Chargers will be 1 game better. Chargers are good. Hate to say it, Chargers were 10-7. I think they're an 11-win team. I really do. I think the Chargers are at the pace where the Chargers should be 1 game better. I mean, come on. They got Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler. Williams is healthy. Their receivers, Keenan Allen, Derwin James. They added well in the draft. They're an improved team. Now, again, would I like to see the Raiders knock them out? And could they? Yeah, if the Raiders get hot. But the disclaimer here, Chargers there. So I gave you my AFC and my NFC. I'm not going to go each round of the playoffs. We don't know where the game's going to be. I'm just going to cut to the chase. In the NFC Championship game, it'll be played in Arlington, Texas. And the Dallas Cowboys will have home field against the San Francisco 49ers and Nick Bosa. It'll be a ground attack game. It'll be a fierce game. 2 coaches, Mike McCarthy, going up against Kyle Shanahan. I have the Dallas Cowboys beating the 49ers in the NFC Championship game, 28-27. Dallas advances to the Super Bowl. In the AFC, this is a tough one because I want to go Buffalo one more time, but I can't. I'm dying to go Buffalo. And I'm thinking that I'm really believing that Baltimore could be the sleeper team, come in via the wild card and beat everybody else there. I'm not going to pick Jacksonville to get to the Super Bowl, and I'm not going to pick the Chargers and Kansas City because I really don't think the Chargers and Kansas City are going to go to the Super Bowl. As much as I root against them, I think that one of them could. I think the Chargers and Kansas City have the ability to do it, but I don't have them going. After a lot of thought here, I'm going to go for my AFC pick. I'm going to go Cincinnati over Buffalo. Again, we get the taste. We had the appetizer. Now we get the entree again. I'm sorry, Buffalo. I picked you to go this far, but you'll have to go through Cincinnati. And I think Cincinnati in this game is going to win it. They can win it in Buffalo. They can win it in Cincinnati. That pains me. That'll bring Cincinnati to Las Vegas, Nevada, taking on America's team, Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys. Jerry's had a lot to do with Vegas. Had a lot to do with Vegas. He's a Vegas guy. My Super Bowl pick. The Dallas Cowboys win the Super Bowl over the Cincinnati Bengals 31-24. For the first time in over a decade on the JT the Brick platforms, I am picking the Dallas Cowboys as Super Bowl champions. Bet with your wallet, not with your head. Just had fun? That's my picks. Could it be the Eagles and Buffalo? Of course. Could it be Kansas City going up against, a power team in the NFC like the 49ers? Of course it could be. But that's where I'm going. I'm going there. That is my Super Bowl pick again. And you'll see these platforms on YouTube. Appreciate if you would subscribe to my new YouTube page. It's in my bio there at Twitter, at JT the Brick. And we'll get into it here. I don't like I'm not a Cowboy fan. I grew up a Giant fan. I rooted against the Cowboys my whole life. I love the Raiders. I'm a Raiders guy, Raider fan, season ticket holder. I would love to pick the Raiders to win the Super Bowl. I can't do that as I'm wearing the silver and black in their studio. But what I think with my Super Bowl picks, I'm normally in the ballpark. But it's just tough to do. And hopefully this spurs you to try to give yourself a Super Bowl pick. Try it. Try it at the bar with your buddies as you're throwing back a Modelo and say, who do you got in the Super Bowl? You know what most people say? I don't know. Why do I have to pick now? What do you mean, why do you got to pick now? The season starts now. We don't give you 7 weeks to warm up here. So that is my Super Bowl pick. Dak Prescott over Joe Burrow. The Dallas Cowboys are your Super Bowl champions. All right. Let me press stop record. I'm new to all this, man.